Welcome to Topicia Inner Clarity. I'm really glad you found your way here.
It's good to be here.
We've dimmed the lights in the studio today and the world outside.
Well, we're going to ask you to put that on pause for a little while. We are stepping into a space of reflection. Today isn't just about information. It's about understanding the invisible and often really painful currents that shape our reality.
And currents is absolutely the right word. We are diving into something today that I think every single person listening has felt in their gut, but maybe they've never had the precise language to describe it.
I think so too. We aren't talking about a slow drift apart where you just, stop calling each other. We're talking about a sharp turn, a really specific, confusing phenomenon where someone a best friend, a close colleague, maybe even a family member suddenly turns on you.
Right.
And I don't mean they just get annoyed. I mean they start hating you or undermining you. It's what our sources refer to as the silent war. It is a war. And the most dangerous part of it is that you often don't see it coming because you're looking for a reason in the daylight.
Yes. You're searching for a logical cause.
You're scanning your memory banks for a mistake you made, a word you said wrong, a birthday you forgot. But the battle isn't happening there. It isn't happening in the logic of the daylight. It's happening in the dark.
In the unconscious mind.
Exactly. That's where it lives.
And that is the core mission of this deep dive. We are going to shine a light on this sudden interpersonal hostility. If you are listening to this and you've ever laid awake at night replaying a conversation thinking, why did they look at me with that level of disgust?
Why are they suddenly so cold when I just got the promotion of a lifetime?
Yes, exactly that. Then this is for you.
We are going to validate that confusion.
Yeah.
Because the natural instinct, especially for the kind of thoughtful people who listen to this show, is to blame yourself.
Oh, 100%.
To think you're crazy or you missed something obvious. But the thesis we're exploring today, based on a huge stack of research centering on the analytical psychology of Carl Jung, is that often this hatred isn't about what you did. It is about what your presence awakens in them.
We have a fascinating collection of sources to get through today. We're looking at deep dives into Jungian philosophy, transcripts from lectures on the shadow, modern neuroscience about reality distortion, and the actual mechanics of projection.
And we're going to unpack these big concepts. The mirror effect, the law of enantiodromia, which I know sounds like a spell from Harry Potter, but it's actually almost like psychological physics.
It really does. And the collective unconscious.
It all sounds very academic, and some of the words are big, but I promise you the application is deeply, deeply personal. We're going to look at why people turn against you, specifically when you grow.
Right, when you start to shine.
When you start to shine, why does it cast a shadow on them? And maybe more importantly, how do you survive it without losing your own mind in the process?
So let's start at the very foundation. I feel like we can't talk about this silent war without talking about the architect of this theory, Carl Jung. In the context of this deep dive, what exactly is the shadow?
To really get it, you have to visualize a house. Jung invites us to imagine the human psyche as a home. Now, the part of the house that you live in, the living room, the kitchen, the place where you invite guests, that is what Jung calls the persona.
The mask we wear for the world.
It is a mask, but it's also a necessary social tool. It's the version of you that is acceptable, polite, and, fits into society. It's the you that pays taxes on time, smiles at the barista, and knows not to scream when you're stuck in traffic.
The curated version of self.
The curated version. But this house has a basement.
The place we don't take the guests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A sealed room, a dark, dusty place. And in that room, the unconscious mind throws everything that doesn't fit with the nice decor upstairs. The shadow is the repository of everything a person denies in themselves.
So naturally, our minds go to the bad stuff, the psychological trash.
Right. And that's a big part of it. The repressed weaknesses, the shameful desires, the aggression you aren't allowed to show because you've decided you're a nice person, the greed, the jealousy, all the ugly bits. But, and this is so crucial, it's maybe the most overlooked part, Jung also said it contains undeveloped potential. It contains what some call the golden shadow.
Okay, wait, let's pause there because that's fascinating. The golden shadow. So it's not just our inner villains down there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Imagine you were a child who was naturally loud and creative and just, powerful, a force of nature. But your parents or your teachers were constantly telling you, be quiet, sit still, you're too much.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Well, to survive, to be loved. You took that power and that creativity and you shoved it in the basement. You divorced yourself from it to fit in. So the shadow contains the not me. It's a collection of everything we've disowned, good and bad.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like the psychological junk drawer of the house. But junk drawers usually stay closed. How does this lead to, my best friend suddenly trying to sabotage my career?
Because that basement door doesn't stay sealed forever. The pressure builds up. Jung believed that the psyche always seeks wholeness. It wants to integrate that stuff. It wants you to go down into the basement and clean it out.
But most of us don't want to do that.
We definitely don't. And if you refuse to face it, if you refuse to go down there and do the work yourself, the door bursts open. And this is where the silent war begins. Because when someone can't face that basement in themselves, they have to put its contents somewhere else.
And that is the mechanism of projection.
Precisely. Projection is the unconscious act of taking the contents of your own shadow container and dumping it onto someone else. And I have to be really clear here. It is an involuntary, autonomous act.
So the person doing it has no idea.
Zero idea they're doing it. Jung famously said, projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face.
The replica of one's own unknown face, that is haunting. It suggests that when this person is looking at me, they aren't seeing me at all.
They're seeing a movie screen. And they're the projector. If someone suddenly decides you are arrogant and they are absolutely violently convinced of it.
And then what they're really doing is wrestling with their own repressed desire for recognition, or maybe their own hidden superiority complex.
It's highly likely. They're fighting a war with themselves, but they are using you as the battlefield. But here's the really tricky part, and this is why the simple advice to just ignore it often fails. Projection rarely happens on a completely blank screen. It needs a hook. It needs a hook.
Okay, let's go deep on this hook concept, because I think this is where all the confusion and the gaslighting really starts. What is a hook in this context?
A hook is a tiny, real trait in you. A sliver of truth. Let's say you are in a meeting and you have a moment where you are genuinely confident. You speak over someone, maybe just for a second, to get your point across because you're passionate about it.
Which is a pretty normal thing to do in a heated debate. It happens.
It is a very human thing. But that tiny reality, that 1% of the interaction, serves as a hanger. And on that little hanger, the projector hangs their entire heavy winter coat of repressed psychology.
Wow.
They take 1% of truth and add 99% of their own shadow to it.
And that explains why you can't argue with them. Because if I say I'm not arrogant, they can just point to the hook. They'll say, but you interrupted Bob in the meeting.
Exactly. They use that 1% truth to validate the 99% lie. And because there is that tiny grain of truth, you start to gaslight yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You think, well, I did interrupt Bob. Maybe I am an arrogant monster. You start to accept their reality because the hook anchors their entire distorted story.
But the intensity is the tell, isn't it? The sheer emotional force of their reaction.
The intensity is the confession. That is the rule of thumb here. If the reaction is wildly disproportionate to the event, if they hate you with a burning passion for a minor, tiny infraction, they are confessing what they hate and fear in themselves.
Our sources mentioned a really specific case study from Jung's own practice that illustrates this perfectly. It's the story of the charming patient. I found terrifying because it shows just how convincing these projectors can be. Can you walk us through that?
This story chills me every single time I read it.
Yeah.
In 1913, Jung began treating a man who was, by all accounts, just lovely.
On the surface.
Completely. Charming, articulate, intelligent, seemed very self-aware. He was the kind of guy you'd want to grab a beer with. But as Jung listened to him week after week, he started to notice a disturbing pattern.
The pattern of the villains.
Right. This man would describe people in his life, his former business partner, his ex-fiancée, his own brother, as evil or manipulative or betrayers. And the descriptions were eerily identical. It was like he was describing the same villain over and over again, just wearing different faces.
Which is a massive red flag. You know, as the saying goes, if you smell dog poop everywhere you go, maybe check your own shoe.
Exactly that. Jung realized this patient was projecting his own shadow, his own capacity for manipulation, for cruelty, for betrayal onto everyone around him. But here's the kicker, and this is why we call it a war. This wasn't just happening in his head.
It had real-world consequences.
Devastating ones. He destroyed 3 relationships in 6 months. He got 2 colleagues fired by spreading vicious rumors about their treachery. He drove his own brother to a nervous breakdown.
And the whole time, he sat there in Jung's office, convinced that he was the victim.
With tears in his eyes, He genuinely, 100% believed he was the victim of a cruel and unjust world. He was totally unaware that he was the perpetrator. He projected his own evil traits onto others with such powerful conviction that he mobilized other people against them. This is the danger. It starts in the unconscious mind of the aggressor, but it creates real-world casualties.
That absolute conviction is what makes it so scary. You can't reason with someone who believes their delusion is objective truth, and our sources actually dive into the neuroscience of this, which I found so illuminating. It takes it out of the realm of just, psychological theory and puts it into actual biology. It's not just that they're being stubborn, their brains are actually doing something different.
Yes, it's the neuroscience of reality distortion. When someone is in the grip of a deep, powerful projection, the emotional centers of the brain, specifically the amygdala, essentially hijack the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, let's break that down for everyone. The prefrontal cortex is like the CEO of the brain, right? The rational part.
It's the CEO. It's the fact checker. It's the part of you that assesses reality, uses logic, and regulates impulse. It's the part that says, wait a minute, is she really attacking me, or did she just not hear what I said?
And the amygdala is the security guard, the alarm system.
The amygdala is the panic button. And when the shadow is triggered, when your very presence threatens their carefully constructed persona, the amygdala screams, threat. It floods the brain with cortisol and adrenaline. And what it does, effectively, is it takes the prefrontal cortex offline. The CEO gets locked out of the building.
So fact-checking just stops.
It stops completely. And this is the truly terrifying part. The brain literally rewrites memories and perceptions in real time to support the emotional narrative.
What?
If the projector feels threatened by you, their brain will actually alter the auditory processing of your voice. They will remember you shouting when you were whispering. They will look at a neutral facial expression and see a sneer.
So they're almost hallucinating.
In a sense, yes. It's a projection of their internal imagery onto external reality. They aren't lying to you in the traditional sense of knowing the truth and actively concealing it.
Mm-hmm.
They believe the distortion. Their brain has made it real for them.
And that belief, that conviction, creates what the sources call a reality distortion field.
Exactly. We humans are wired to trust emotional intensity. It's an evolutionary survival trait. If someone runs into the cave screaming, "Tiger," you don't hang around to check for stripes. You run.
Right. You react first.
You react first. So if someone comes to you crying, shaking, saying, "You won't believe how cruel he was to me," your mirror neurons fire. You feel their pain. You assume that for them to be this upset, something objectively terrible must have actually happened.
So even smart, rational people get sucked in. They believe the projector because the projector so thoroughly believes the lie.
Precisely. It's unconscious gaslighting on a massive scale. And it makes the actual victim question their own sanity because the aggressor's reality feels so solid, so unshakable, it spreads like a social virus.
Okay, so we understand the mechanism. It's the shadow, it's projection, and it's a literal brain hijack. But for the listener, we need to get practical. How do we spot this before it completely destroys our reputation or our peace of mind? Because it's called a silent war for a reason. It's subtle.
Very subtle at first.
Our sources list 8 unmistakable signs of this hidden hostility. I really want to go through these because I think everyone listening is going to recognize a few of them, unfortunately.
These signs are so crucial because they appear before the major explosion. They are the tremors before the earthquake.
Let's start with sign number 1. Contempt disguised as irony. This is the sarcastic joker.
Oh, this is a classic. We've all met this person. They say something incredibly cutting about your new outfit or your latest idea at work, and when you react, they throw up their hands and say, "Whoa, I was only joking. Don't be so sensitive."
The old Schrodinger's douchebag. They wait to see your reaction before they decide if they were joking or not.
Exactly. From a Jungian perspective, humor is often a way to let the shadow out to play without taking any responsibility for it. If I can't admit I'm angry with you or jealous of you, I'll just make a biting joke. If you call me on it, I gaslight you. What? You can't take a joke. But the contempt is real. The laugh is just the delivery system for the poison.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, what about sign number 2? Hidden sabotage.
This is when the hostility moves from words to actions, but it always stays plausibly deniable. It's giving you misleading advice that sounds good on the surface. It's forgetting to tell you the deadline for a project was moved up.
Little mistakes that always seem to hinder you.
Always. The root cause here is usually a deep fear of their own inferiority. If you succeed, they feel small. So they unconsciously place these little pebbles in your shoes. They aren't trying to stop you completely, necessarily, just slow you down enough so they can feel better about themselves.
That leads right into sign number 3, silent competition. This is the person who turns every single conversation into a comparison.
Oh, the one-upper. You share some good news. I just got engaged. And they immediately have to talk about their own relationship. Or worse, they subtly downplay your win. Oh yeah, engagement is fun, but just wait until the real work starts. They cannot tolerate seeing you shine because it calls their own self-esteem into question. To them, life is a zero-sum game. If you're winning, by definition, they must be losing.
Sign 4 is superficial support. This one really hurts because these people often call themselves your friends.
This is the fair weather friend, but in reverse. They're absolutely there for you when you are failing. They love your drama.
They feed on it.
They do. But when you win, crickets.
Yeah.
You can feel the energy drain from the room. Jung calls this a form of ego dissociation. They're emotionally disconnected from your joy. They might offer a forced, tight-lipped smile, but they are suddenly too busy during your key moments. They just can't bring themselves to fuel your success because it's a glaring reminder of their own stagnation.
And sign 5, control disguised as caring. The classic, I'm just telling you this for your own good.
This is so common, especially in families or in really enmeshed friendships. They criticize your choices, your partner, your job, but they frame it as deep concern. Are you sure you want that job? It sounds incredibly stressful. I just don't want to see you get hurt by him.
What's the root cause there?
It's a fear of their own internal chaos. They feel out of control inside, so they try to control you to manage their own anxiety. If you stay in the box they built for you, they feel safe. Your growth threatens their stability.
Okay, sign 6 is spreading criticism and gossip. This is the recruitment phase we talked about with Jung's charming patient.
Yes, this is the recruitment of the army. A projector rarely wants to work alone. They need validation. If I can get 3 other people to agree with me that you are difficult or arrogant, then my projection suddenly feels like objective reality.
Right, it stops being my issue and starts being the issue.
Exactly. It's what Jungians call a collective possession. The group adopts the projector's distorted reality as truth.
And sign 7, a simple lack of joy in your success.
This is similar to superficial support, but it's more active. It's the immediate subject change. You announce you just ran a marathon, and they say, oh, that's nice. Did you hear about the weather forecast for this weekend? It's an active refusal to let your light land in the room. They treat your joy like it's a bad smell they need to get away from.
And finally, sign 8, which our sources say is the most insidious of all, nonverbal leakage, because the body never lies.
This is the one you have to train yourself to see, because it happens in a split second. It's the micro-expression, the flash of disgust before the polite smile is plastered on.
The hands that stiffen when someone else gives you a compliment.
Yes, or the forced smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The avoiding eye contact, specifically when they're supposed to be congratulating you. Jung argued that the unconscious is physical. We hold our shadows in our muscles and our posture. If someone says they're happy for you, but their body recoils when you succeed, trust the body. The body is the honest broker in this transaction.
Trust the body. That is such powerful advice. I want to pivot now to the deeper why. We've touched on it, but there is a specific concept here called the mirror effect. The sources make a really bold claim, which is that people don't hate you for your mistakes. They hate you for your truth.
This is really the heart of the matter. And it's the hardest part for most of us to accept, because we want to believe that if we are just good enough or nice enough, everyone will love us. But Jung says no, that's a fantasy.
So what's really happening?
We all walk around wearing masks, our personas. Most relationships aren't between 2 authentic selves. They're agreements between 2 personas.
Like an unwritten contract.
Exactly, an unconscious contract. I'll be the helpless one if you agree to be the savior. I'll be the funny screw-up if you'll be the responsible one. It's a stable, predictable dynamic. But then you start to grow. You start to individuate, to use the proper Jungian term.
You become authentic. You drop the mask.
And when you do that, you are suddenly holding up a giant, unflattering mirror to them.
And what do they see in that mirror?
They see all the compromises they've made in their own life. If you become free, you remind them of their chains. If you become creative, you remind them of the dreams they abandoned to be safe. Your truth highlights their untruth.
We have a case study in the notes about Anna and Lisa. It's a workplace dynamic that perfectly illustrates this. Can we break that down?
Absolutely. So Anna is the classic people pleaser. That's her persona. She's helpful, quiet. She stays in her lane. She brings donuts on Fridays. She never makes waves.
And her colleague, Lisa, loves this.
Lisa loves this. Why? Because next to Anna, Lisa gets to feel dominant, secure, and loud. The contract is set. Anna is small, so Lisa can feel big.
But then Anna changes.
Anna gets a promotion. And she starts doing the inner work. She gains confidence. She stops saying sorry at the start of every single sentence. She starts speaking up in meetings. She sheds the people pleaser mask.
And Lisa turns on her.
Instantly. Lisa turns cold. She starts undermining her in meetings, maybe calls her bossy or arrogant to other colleagues. Now, is Lisa reacting to Anna being mean or actually arrogant?
No, Anna's just being herself.
Exactly. Lisa is reacting to her own stagnation. Anna's growth holds up a mirror to the fact that Lisa has stayed in the same place for 10 years. Anna broke the unconscious contract, and Lisa hates her for it.
It reminds me of the celebrity analogy in our notes regarding Taylor Swift. I know it seems strange to bring a pop star into a deep Jungian analysis, but the trajectory fits this pattern perfectly.
It fits perfectly. Look at the shift. Early Taylor Swift was the safe country girl. She was polite. She was humble. She looked shocked every time she won an award. Everyone loved her. She fit the collective projection of America's sweetheart.
And then she grew up.
She claimed her voice. She became a powerful, autonomous businesswoman. She started owning her success, demanding her worth, and what happened? The public reception polarized. People started to hate her for being calculated or fake or too much.
Because she stopped being the fantasy they projected onto her.
Because she became real. And a real, powerful woman is threatening to a system that prefers women to be small and pleasing. The lesson is this: you cannot grow without confusing those who liked you small. Authenticity is a threat because it forces everyone around you to question their own inauthenticity.
This brings us to a concept that sounds like a physics term, but it's actually deeply psychological. Enantiodromia.
Yes, it's a Greek term, Jung, borrowed from the philosopher Heraclitus. It literally means running counter to.
The pendulum swing.
It's the ultimate pendulum swing. Jung believed that the psyche, like nature, seeks balance. If you go too far in one direction, if you push something to an extreme, eventually the energy will build up and flip violently to its opposite.
And this explains why the perfect friendship or the perfect romance can suddenly turn into the most bitter, vicious hatred.
Because it was too extreme to begin with. It was one-sided. Imagine a pendulum. If I pull it all the way to the right, if I idealize you, if I say you are a god or goddess who can do no wrong, I am building up a massive charge in the unconscious.
You're ignoring my humanity.
Completely. I'm ignoring your flaws, your bad days, your reality. I am repressing the other side of the coin. Eventually, that repressed energy gets too high. And then, snap.
It swings all the way to the other side.
It doesn't just swing, it crashes. You go from goddess to demon in a split second. The obsessive love turns into obsessive hate. The worship turns into disgust.
This connects to that idea of the Don Juan archetype and the anima, right? The guy who falls in love instantly and completely.
Right. So in Jungian theory, the anima is the feminine inner soul of a man. If a man isn't in touch with his own inner emotional life, his own feminine side, he projects it onto a real woman. He thinks she is the source of all life and magic and feeling.
So he chases her.
He chases her. He brings her flowers. He writes poetry. He puts her on a pedestal.
But she's just a person.
She's just a person. And the moment she acts like a normal human being, maybe she burps or she has a bad day or she disagrees with him on something important, the projection shatters. The pendulum swings.
And he flips.
He flips. He demonizes her. She tricked me. She's not who I thought she was. But it was never ever about her. It was about his internal image failing to stick to an external reality. It happens instantly because all that repressed negative energy has to go somewhere.
The sources also mention this happens a lot in what Jung called the afternoon of life or midlife, the responsible husband who suddenly runs off.
The classic midlife crisis is pure enantiodromia. You spend 40 years being the good boy, the responsible provider, repressing all your desire for freedom, for chaos, for adventure. You shove it all into the shadow. Eventually, the unconscious just says, enough.
And you flip into the opposite.
You buy the motorcycle, you leave the family, you grow the ponytail, you become the exact opposite of what you were.
So if someone flips on you, listener, it might just be their internal pendulum swinging from repression to expression. You just happen to be standing there when it hit.
Precisely. You are the collateral damage of their internal psychic course correction.
That is actually kind of comforting, in a strange way. It removes so much of the personal blame. But sometimes this isn't just one person flipping on you, sometimes it's a whole group. we need to talk about the collective unconscious and scapegoating. This feels like the most painful part of this whole phenomenon, especially when it's your own family.
This is where it gets tribal and much more dangerous. Hatred isn't always individual. Sometimes it's systemic. Groups, families, companies, even whole towns have a collective unconscious. They're shared, unwritten rules.
Every family has them.
Every family has them. In this family, we don't talk about feelings, or we are the perpetual victims of the world, or we are the perfect family and we never show weakness.
And if you break that unwritten rule,
You become the scapegoat. The scapegoat mechanism is ancient. It's a ritual casting out. A group projects its collective dysfunction, all of its shared shadow material, onto one person, the black sheep, so the rest of the group can feel clean and united.
it's not us, it's him. If we just get rid of him, all our problems will be solved.
Exactly. We're a happy family, except for Uncle John. He's the problem. John carries the shadow for the whole group. And the target is usually the most transparent or sensitive person, the one who tells the truth.
The truth teller.
The truth teller.
Yeah.
If you stop playing the role of the problem child or the fixer, the family system attacks you with incredible force to try and get you back into your designated box.
It's the crab bucket mentality.
Yes, that's the perfect metaphor. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it can easily climb out. But if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, the moment one tries to climb out, the others will pull it back down.
But why? Not to escape themselves, but just to keep that one crab in there with them.
Exactly. Because your freedom proves that their imprisonment is a choice, not a necessity. And that is an intolerable truth for the group to face. If you can leave the toxic dynamic, it means they could too. But they are too afraid, so they hate you for showing them the door they're too scared to walk through.
Man, that is heavy. Your freedom proves that their imprisonment is a choice. That explains why people can get so angry when you just improve your life.
It's the most threatening thing you can do to a dysfunctional system, yet healthy.
There's another layer to this, which our sources call perhaps the quietest form of this war. Silent envy. This isn't anger, but a painful awareness of another's advantage.
Envy is the quietest war because it's so shameful. We can admit we're angry, we can admit we're sad. It is very, very hard for most people to admit, I am envious of you. So it hides. It manifests as withdrawal.
The text messages stop getting answered.
The praise becomes generic and hollow. The invitations dry up.
And it hurts most coming from peers, doesn't it?
Yes, you don't really envy Elon Musk. The gap is too big. You envy your college roommate who just started a successful business. The comparison is valid, and so it stings. Jung has this profound quote: "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their children than the unlived life of the parent."
How does that apply to peers?
We'll just apply it laterally. Your lived life reminds them of their unlived potential. If you write the book, or you run the marathon, or you leave the toxic marriage, you are living the very life they fantasized about, but didn't have the courage to grace.
So they don't actually hate you.
They hate the gap between who they are and who they could have been. You are just the yardstick measuring that painful gap.
So we've covered the shadow, the brain hijack, the 8 signs, the mirror effect, the pendulum of an antiodromia, the scapegoat, and silent envy. It's a lot. And honestly, it feels almost inevitable. If we grow, people will hate us. So what do? We can't just stop growing to keep people comfortable. What are the solutions?
No, you absolutely do not stop growing. But you change how you navigate the battlefield. The first step is what we've been doing for the last hour: awareness and detachment.
Realizing deep in your bones, this is not about me.
It is the shield. Conscious awareness is the shield. If you can see the projection for what it is, if you can look at someone screaming at you and see their frightened shadow dancing behind them, you don't have to eat the poison. You can stand in what Jung called your own sovereignty. You can say, I see you are in pain, but I am not the cause of it, and I will not carry it for you.
Okay. Step 2 involves a high-level Jungian concept, the transcendent function. This sounds mystical, but how do we apply it practically?
It sounds complex, but it's actually very practical. It means holding the tension of opposites within yourself. Usually when people attack us, we revert to our animal instincts. We either want to fight back aggression or run away and appease them, submission. The transcendent function is finding the third way.
Can you give me an example of that?
It's being kind and having firm boundaries. It's being open to feedback and being selective about whose opinion actually matters. It's holding your ground without attacking theirs. This makes you whole. Yeah. It also makes you unpredictable, which scares people who think in black and white, but it is the only way to break the cycle of projection. You refuse to play the role they've assigned you in their drama.
Step 3 is the hard work. We have to look in the mirror, too.
We have to. We are not immune to this. We all project. The listener needs to ask themselves, who do I hate? Who irritates me irrationally?
Yeah.
Because that is where your shadow is showing up. We have to withdraw our own projections.
Yeah.
You cannot claim sovereignty if you're still treating other people as screens for your own inner movies.
That is a tough pill to swallow, but it's absolutely necessary. Step 4 is about reframing the loneliness. Because if you do this, if you individuate and become more authentic, you will lose people. There will be a period of solitude.
Jung was very clear about this. The path of individuation is often a path of solitude.
Yeah.
But you must reframe it. It is not punishment. It is preparation. It is, as one writer put it, the universe clearing space for the true to find you. If you are surrounded by people who only like your mask, you are already profoundly alone. Real solitude is better than false connection.
And finally, step 5, strategic withdrawal. Sometimes you just have to walk away.
Yes. If you see the dangerous signs, the absolute certainty, the immunity to any evidence, the recruitment of an army, you cannot win that battle. You cannot convince a projector with logic. If you argue with them, you just become a more vivid character in their drama. You validate them by engaging. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play. Walk away. Protect your peace.
It's not admitting defeat. It's reality testing.
It is survival. It is wisdom.
This has been an incredibly deep dive. As we wrap up, I just want to summarize the journey we've been on. We've uncovered this silent war, this battle between another person's ego and their shadow that is so often fought on the battlefield of our lives.
It's a heavy topic, for sure, but I hope it's ultimately a liberating one. The key takeaway for me, and for you listening, should be this. The hatred you face is often proof of your power. It's proof of your growth. You are the mirror.
That's a beautiful image to end on. Don't shatter yourself just because other people can't stand their own reflection.
Exactly. Stay authentic, stay awake,
Yeah.
and stay unshaken.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. We've talked a lot about people projecting their shadow onto you, their darkness. But Jung also said we project our gold. We project our own greatness onto others because we are afraid to claim it for ourselves. So ask yourself this. Who do you admire obsessively? Who do you put on a pedestal? Because that person might be holding your gold. And maybe it's time you took it back and started living it yourself.
That is the ultimate challenge, isn't it?
Thank you for listening to this episode of Topikia Inner Clarity. If you found clarity today, we invite you to join our community. Subscribe for the next deep dive into the architecture of the mind.
Stay authentic, even when it's lonely.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.